Howdy. So this week we're looking at the first part of a three-part series on Lord of Creation. The idea is that Jesus is demonstrating that he is the Lord of Creation in different ways. This week we're looking at Jesus feeding the 5,000. And one of the things that we want to do is to understand that feeding the 5,000 may have different theories as to what happened, but they end up leading us to the same point of what is being made. Now, oftentimes when we look at this story, we're looking at the idea of Jesus doing something miraculous. And it is miraculous. The question comes down to what form of miracle was God doing at that point in time. Now, the reason for this is not because we're doubting Jesus' ability to do miracles or the fact that Jesus is able to do supernatural things. We're going to see that very, very clearly over and over again. What we look at, though, is that in this passage, Jesus is telling the disciples, you need to feed the people. You need to do this. This is for you to do. Now, at that point in time, we might be asking, but if they only had 5 loaves and 2 fish, then how would Jesus have expected them to do so without his being miraculously involved? Now, there are 3 ways we might look at this. One, it's possible that maybe the place wasn't as desolate as it sounded, and there was a way they could have purchased food if they had been thinking about it. They had been planning for it. And maybe they just didn't want to do that. Maybe second is that it turned out that other people actually had food after all, which maybe that's what was happening when they ended up coming up with so much food at the end. Now third is that it could have just been as miraculous as we take it to be, and Jesus should have just been able to expect that his disciples would have known that they could have taken care of it at the time. Now, the reason for questioning is not because of doubt in whether or not Jesus can do anything miraculous, but rather because of the way that it ended. You see, when we saw in the past that God was providing for the children of Israel miraculously, there was just enough for them to have what they needed. No more, no less. But in this instant, there's 12 baskets full of food left over. Now, this may or may not be an indication that there was something else going on at the time. We don't know. But the reason why I bring that up is because I wanted to point out that no matter which way we're looking at this is still a question of whether or not the disciples are following after Jesus. Whether or not the Lord of creation can bless the creation through the creation. In other words, the thing is that God can do miraculous things anytime he wants. But oftentimes, instead of trying to do things around us or without us, God wants to do something even more amazing by going through us. He wants to transform us and then transform the world that's around us. He wants all of us to be changed together. So the thing is that as we're seeing different circumstances around us where we are confused as to what God is doing and how God is going to make the world any better, and we're trying to figure out what he could possibly do, instead of looking at things that are miraculous right off the bat, instead asking, how is it that God is changing our lives? How is God transforming us so that we become the solution to the issues that we see around us? So instead of jumping to ask how God can change things around us, instead we can ask how it is that the Creator can transform us, his creation, and use us as vessels to transform the rest of creation.